Okay, I'm doing a timing belt job, and I'm trying to figure out how to hold the cam shaft pulleys. Mine's a single overhead cam, one side's a plastic pulley, one's a steel pulley. And the book really, it don't show the tools to do it. It shows the chain wrench holding the crankshaft pulley and using an old serpentine belt to protect the pulley. So it shows that, but the camshaft pulley, so it's like, I guess you have to figure it out. So that should, I like to keep my old timing belts. I put it on here, wrapped it all the way around, used a razor blade, and I got it just a little bit gap here. So it's a cog belt. This is the plastic pulley. The timing belt fits into cog, so that's not slipping. And if you tighten this down, I can put a pipe on here to hold it while taking a bolt out, you know, for leverage. But what I like about this chain wrench, it's got these like vice grips. You can only squeeze it so tight. So I got a chain wrench that actually has a handle, so the more you push on the handle, the tighter the chain gets. Just like a pipe wrench. So with that belt, old belt, protecting even this plastic pulley, and when that chain wrench comes, it has like a 2-foot handle, and it should be long enough. If not, I can put a pipe, and I should easily be able to take the bolts out, and when I go back in, tighten it back, torque it back. So that was pretty simple fix. That should work. And you can turn it like where this will hit the frame or the subframe, or if you want to do it that way. But it don't work on each. That might work. No. It's best just to put a pipe and put your hood all the way up. It won't touch the windshield. And make sure the wind don't blow it and hit your head. It might come down, crashing down on your head. So that was pretty easy solution. Okay, like I said, I have a single overhead cam, so pretty much straightforward. But if you have a dual overhead cam, my Chilton's book says you need a locking to lock the two pulleys so the mold stays together, so the valves don't touch. So that's another tool you gotta get if you have a dual overhead turbo engine, which I don't. And so if I did, how would I solve that without having to buy all that expensive tools just to do a job one time? I saw one YouTuber, he took the old belt and put vice grips about I think he took off maybe some idlers, and he put his vice grips where the bolts lining up, there's not much clearance in here, so the chain wrench it won't work out, like just with single overhead cam. But the way he was doing, he was pinching it together with vice grips, and I guess it was enough to hold it to break loose the bolts and then torque them back. But my book says you need the holding tool to keep the bolts together, or the valves would touch. If the pulleys move, the valves would touch because it's a dual overhead cam. And so I would think, well, that tool, if it holds it, you should be able to use it to take loose the bolts too. But apparently it's saying use a tool or a pin wrench, which I never heard of. And I've seen the tools on eBay, they're like 40, 50 bucks. One for like AVCS. And they're like, I mean, that's a lot of money. Then you need the one for like dentake and exhaust and the AVCS, so it might be like 3 or 4, who knows. So how to hold this and keep the bolts together, I'd say that YouTuber using the vice grips, I don't see any other way, because the chain wrench won't work for that. And I know a guy, he couldn't get the bolt out, it was so tight, so he cut the head off. And when you do that, you release the tension on the bolt rods, and after you cut it off, the bolt just unscrews because there's no tension on the rods because the head is cut off. So that was probably about as best you could do without having to buy a bunch of tools. And now I got that solved. I'm now to the crankshaft and camshaft seals, and of course it's always gotta be something. I have a 2.5 Subaru engine. I was practicing taking the camshaft seals out. I do it the regular way I do it, use a tiny drill bit, which usually always breaks, and drill a tiny hole right into the seal without touching the shafts, and put a stainless steel screw in, and I was able to pull it out some, but the screw pulled out. So I checked my book and it says use a crank and cam seal pulley. So I got a camshaft, a cam and crank seal pulley and installer kit. And I got just another seal pulley just in case. I got the chain wrench coming that when you put more pressure on it, it just gets tighter. So I'll have that. I'll have the seal remover and installer, and I'll probably have the right size bushings to knock into new seals in it. And of course I bought OEM Subaru. I figured why not, they're not that much more. And I wish this gonna leave the seals alone, like the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, you know, if I'm in there, I want to make sure it's perfect. I don't want to have no leaks. I want to make sure the belts, all the idler pulleys, the belt, the water pump, tensioner, it's all new. And I got a Gates timing belt kit with water pump, the one with the N at the end of the port number, and that's the more expensive Gates. And so it comes with all the idlers are made in Japan, which I like. That's good. The Gates timing belt is made in USA. The only thing that I don't like, the water pump is made in China. And I thought about, well, I could get an Asian water pump to not use that Chinese one, but I guess I'll just go ahead and use the Chinese one and hope the thing don't lock up or start leaking, or no telling what it can do. Because any other oil pump, water pump, idlers, any of them lock up, they'll go to the belt, and then they'll go to valves, bent valves, and maybe holes in your pistons, and cost a lot of money. A lot of times it's probably better just to get a used JDM engine, like mine, about $1,000, and I'll have lower miles. But I don't want to do that. I want to make sure the timing belt is all perfect. And I can see somebody put a new timing belt, a OEM Subaru. I took the cover off, but the water pump don't look like it's made. It's the OEM water pump, and it don't really look new. So there's no telling. Maybe the mechanic just put a timing belt on without changing the water pump, the idler pulleys, and the tensioner. And it's like, I'm not going to take a chance. So that's why I got the Gates kit. And what I found interesting, one of the belts, like for the alternator, looks new. And it's an OEM Subaru belt, and it says Fuji Heavy Industries. But what surprised me, after that's the parent company of Subaru, but what surprised me, past that, it said Gates, and it like, oh, Gates. So basically I got a Gates timing belt kit with water pump. It's just the water pump I'm not too sure about. So once I get all my tools, the OEM seals, bolts, most of the bolts I can, like the water pump bolts, oil pump bolts, any of the bolts. I have a place where I can get all kinds of bolts, metric, stainless steel, grade 8, you name it, they have it. And I usually get the 10.8 gold colored bolts, and you can even get them in cap head bolts to replace a lot of your stock Subaru bolts. If you want to do a nice restoration, like under the hood, you can change all your bolts and not pay a bunch of money for OEM Subaru bolts. These bolts, you get a better deal on them, because I get them from an industrial supply, and the stuff's reasonable. The people, they actually even give me let's just say give me a couple extra, and so it's a good place, and that's where I get all my bolts, nuts. If I want stainless, you name it, they have it. Now the bolts for the timing cover, you have to get from Subaru, because they're a special bolt, and I don't think any aftermarket company makes them. So I got new timing cover bolts. I got a OEM thermostat housing, OEM thermostat, radiator cap, OEM bypass hose. But basically, when it comes to a thermostat, I always go OEM Subaru, because there's some reason why they're better than aftermarket. And it don't cost that much more, so why not? It's not like some of those stuff is real expensive. This stuff's not really that much more than OEM. So I got all that coming. I got new radiator hoses up and lower. I got new heater hoses, because you're going to pour the radiator out to do the timing belt job, so why not do it all at the same time? You don't want the hose blown out if you're on a trip. And what I found for my radiator hoses, and it's probably for most Subaru radiator hoses, the same place I can get my hardware and bolts and stuff, they have all stainless steel hose clamps. The band is stainless, the housing is stainless, the screw is stainless, all stainless. If you go to an auto parts store, you pay more money to get one that just has a stainless band, but the housing and the screw are usually plated steel, and they'll tarnish and eventually rust. Whereas these all stainless, they stay looking good forever. You can even polish the housing if you want to, make them look real good. But let me go get one. It's all stainless steel, and it says 024, maybe 0.024, 024, and it fits the hoses for the Subaru perfect. And you don't have a bunch of overhang like you see a lot of times. People get the ones from the auto parts store and they just look like crap. They had a under the band sticking out, and what ends up happening, you're working on it and it slices you open. You don't have that problem with this because it's perfectly sized. You don't have overhang, so it's all stainless, perfectly sized. And the housing, if you want to, you can put it on a buffer with compound, sticker compound, and polish it out to a mirror finish if you really want to make it look nice. I like to make stuff, real pretty. So, I mean, it won't be like a Bell Jackson restoration, but it's gonna look okay. So I'm thankful I don't have a dual overhead cam engine like the one guy had, that he had to cut the bolt head off because it was too tight. And I mean, I would like to have a dual overhead cam turbo engine, but it's just more stuff to break the turbo, and really the naturally aspirated 2.5, it has plenty of power. And you have like me, a dual range manual transmission behind it. I mean, it's got plenty of power. You don't need no turbo. I'm not a race car driver. And when I am, like on the highway, going 80, the thing just sucks up the gas. So I have to drive about 55, which is still in the legal limit. The lowest speed is like 50. It used to be 45 minimum speed, now it's like 50, so I go 55, so I'm in the legal limit, and of course people come right behind me, and I mean, it's their responsibility to put the brakes on and stuff. I mean, I'm legal, and it saves a lot of gas going 55. You go 70 and 80, I mean, my Forester just drinks the gas, the gauge, I can see it go down. But I got new plug wires, new NGK blue spark plug wires, NGK iridium plug, so I'll replace all of that, but I can almost bet that the gas mileage will still suck. It's all-wheel drive. I got bigger tires. I got a roof basket and stuff inside, so it's more weight, bigger tires, and that cuts down the mileage. The mileage usually on a Subaru ain't all that special anyways. But I try to keep it down about 50, 55. I do get pretty good mileage. And so you say, well, what about the people running up behind you? And I say, well, they have to just pass me because I'm in the far right lane, as far right as I can get, going 55, and it is what it is. But when I go on a trip this winter, before winter ends, I plan on going, starting at sunset, driving, and stopping at sunrise, so I'll be on the road at nighttime and sleep in the day. That way most of the people are at home and not on the road, so there won't be much traffic. And the only thing about it is I have to do it in the winter because it needs to be about 50 for the daytime high. No more than 50 for the daytime high every state I go through, because I don't like the heat, and I won't be able to sleep in the cold if the sun is shining on it if I can't find shade. So that's my plan. Drive at night, sleep in the day, and it's much better. Like a 95, I can drive late at night, and it's like I own the 95. There's hardly any traffic. It'll be a long time before I even see headlights behind me. And when I finally do see headlights behind me, they catch up to me and pass me. And then it's back to being by myself again. So nighttime, if you want to save gas, less traffic, nighttime's the way to go, and sleep in the day. And that's how I work on stuff, because the heat here in Florida is just too hot in the summer, so I just work at nighttime with a fan blowing on me, and when that sun comes up, that's quitting time. So I got ways of beating the heat, all kinds of different ways, but that's pretty much what the video's about, is trying to figure out how to hold the camshaft pulleys and not spend a lot of money on tools like $50–$60 that I don't need when I can buy a pipe wrench and use it for a bunch of other stuff. And my bucket, that's what they show holding the crankshaft pulley, as a chain wrench, and using a old serpentine belt to keep from messing up the crank pulley. But it don't show using a chain wrench on a single overhead cam pulley. And I showed you that it does the same thing, but if you have a dual overhead cam, all I can say, I'm glad I don't have one. Okay, that's the end of the video.